The arena was a cathedral of violence. Lights pulsed like thunderclaps, and every tier of the circular coliseum vibrated with the roars of 27 species, baying for blood. Holoscreens spun above, casting flickering projections of champions past, behemoths of muscle, blade, and bone who had made their names in the trials of combat. And now, the camera shifted to a new contender. Human. Staff Sergeant Marla Voss stepped into the ring without ceremony. No war paint. No anthem. No translator drone. Just the soft thud of boots on alloy and the steady beat of her pulse. She wore lightweight tactical fatigues, black and unassuming, her auburn hair tied back in a no-nonsense braid. No armor. No weapons. Her hands flexed once, then went still. Across from her, the reigning champion made his entrance with a full military parade. Voron A.K. the Unbreakable, a legend among the Freyvok. 10 feet of coiled sinew under translucent plating, for arms ending in crushing claws, mandibles chattering a rhythm that signaled war. He raised one clawed hand toward Marla and pointed. Then he laughed. The sound was a low, buzzing snarl that reverberated in the arena's bones. It triggered an echo of laughter from the crowd, rippling outward like a viral infection. This is what humanity offers. Voron A.K.'s voice, translated through the arena PA, was thick with disdain. A bone-fragile meatling to face a champion of war? You insult the trials. Marla said nothing. High above, in the diplomatic tier, the Terran envoy sipped synthetic wine and said calmly, he shouldn't have done that. The commentary drones began their broadcast in earnest, narrating the mismatch with dramatic flair. Voron A.K. weighs nearly 5 times more than the human. His carapace has withstood high-velocity plasma rounds. He has never been taken to the ground in his career. Meanwhile, Earth's representative is breathing. Quite calmly, in fact. Voron A.K. stomped forward as the referee drone dropped between them. Begin, it said flatly, then darted away. The champion opened with a flourish. He pounded his upper fists into his chest, roared again, then lunged, not to kill, but to mock. His swipe whistled past Marla's face, close enough to ruffle her hair. She didn't flinch. Her eyes didn't even track his hand. They were fixed on his center mass, watching the way his hips twisted, the slight hitch in his right leg from an old injury. He circled her like a beast, arms spread wide. Do you know what pain is, little earthling? Do you know what it means to scream? Her lips parted just enough to say, you talk too much. It wasn't loud, but the arena fell quiet enough for the words to carry. Voron A.K.'s grin faltered. She moved. One moment she was standing there, the next, she slipped sideways under his next blow, pivoted on the ball of her foot, and jabbed hard into the back of his knee. The impact made a sickly, wet pop. He staggered, surprised, and snarled, not in pain, but in disbelief. She's faster than she looks, one commentator drone buzzed. No, another corrected. She's faster than he expects. The audience didn't cheer. Not yet. They didn't understand what they'd seen. A trick, perhaps. A fluke. Voron A.K. turned with renewed focus, eyes narrowing. The laughter was gone. He charged properly this time. No flair, no showboating. Straightforward aggression, all weight and momentum. Marla ducked under the first swing, leapt sideways from the second, then let herself fall backward as the third came in low. She rolled and came up beside him, quick as a blade drawn from a sheath. She hit him again, twice, one in the floating rib equivalent, another at the base of his lowest arm. The strikes were surgical, precise. She backed away before he could retaliate. Voron A.K. bellowed. He raised both upper arms and smashed them into the floor, cracking the metal plating and sending a shockwave across the ground. It threw her off balance, just for a heartbeat. But a heartbeat was all he needed. One claw grabbed her arm. He grinned again, triumph flickering in his eyes. Got why. There was a crunch, a blur of motion, and then he was screaming. Marla had twisted, dropped her weight, and spun inside his guard. Her elbow drove up under his shoulder joint, leveraging the captured arm into a sickening angle. With a sharp jerk, she snapped his radius bone. Not a clean break. Deliberate. Messy. It sounded like celery being torn apart underfoot. The champion reeled back, clutching the ruined limb. Blood, not red, but a shimmering teal, oozed from between his fingers. Marla straightened. Next time, she said, don't point. Now the crowd made noise. Not laughter. Not cheers. Confusion, curiosity, a few gasps. Alien physiologists in the medical observation box frantically analyzed the footage. One of them muttered, the break shouldn't be possible without enhanced strength. How is she? She's human, said another. They train differently. Voronezh was breathing heavily. She hadn't broken him, yet. But the seed of fear had been planted. He had underestimated her. Everyone had. And now, for the first time in 7 years, the champion was on the defensive. The round ended with the drone hovering back between them. Pause for damage assessment. As Voronezh stumbled toward his corner, Marla didn't move. Didn't blink. She just waited.
Calm. Calculating.
Watching. From the box above, the Terran envoy leaned forward and whispered to his aide, they thought we were sending a diplomat. We sent a soldier. And on the holoscreen spinning above, Voronezh's title shifted one notch down. Not undefeated. Not anymore. Not after her. The pause between rounds was barely long enough for blood to congeal. Voronezh sat hunched over, one lower arm cradling the shattered upper limb. The med drones hovered around him, spraying regenerative mist and pumping his system full of stimulants. But nothing could mend a fracture like that in seconds, and worse, nothing could restore pride once it was cracked. Marla stood motionless at center ring. She hadn't moved since the bell. No pacing, no flexing, no theatrics. Just silence. Her eyes never left him. She doesn't blink, murmured one of the arena observers.
No.
She calculates, replied another. Voronezh rose slowly, more out of obligation than readiness. The painkillers dulled the agony, but not the humiliation. His gaze locked on hers, colder now. No more arrogance. Only violence. The referee drone darted back in. Round 2. Commence. He launched himself without a sound. No preamble, no taunts, just raw, brutal motion. He led with his good arm, aiming low to sweep her legs, while his remaining upper hand reached to grab. Marla spun away, pivoted on one foot, and jammed an elbow into his rib again. He grunted, twisted, and finally caught her shoulder with a grazing blow. It was enough. She staggered. He took the opening, slamming her into the floor with his full body weight. The arena floor rang like a gong. Dust and sparks flew from the impact zone. The crowd surged with energy. Finally, they saw her bleed. Marla lay on her back, eyes blinking, one hand clutching her ribs. Voronezh loomed above her, all 4 arms raised. His voice rasped, "Not so fast now, are you, little earthling?" But the grin never made it to his face. She brought her knee up like a piston, slamming it into the side of his good leg's joint. He howled. The leg buckled. She rolled, used his off-balance weight against him, and sent him crashing face-first into the metal floor. The sound of carapace scraping alloy rang sharp and final. She was on her feet before he was on his knees. Marla didn't wait. She struck his side twice, short, explosive punches, and ducked as he flailed wildly. One claw grazed her cheek, drawing a narrow line of blood. She ignored it. The second time he tried to grab her, she trapped his wrist, twisted, and with a clean motion, dislocated his shoulder with a crunch that echoed in the stands. The champion screamed. Not in rage. In pain. Somewhere in the audience, a betting line crashed. The odds recalculated in real time. Marla stepped back as Voronezh stumbled, his arms hanging at mangled angles. The referee drone hovered in uncertainty. "Do you yield?" it asked. Voronezh bared his teeth, but said nothing. His mandibles twitched. "Do you yield?" the drone repeated. He growled through broken pride. "No." Marla rolled her neck once. "Good." She advanced, but slower now, measured. Voronezh was wounded but not yet defeated, and that made him more dangerous. Desperation was unpredictable. but she'd studied unpredictability. Humans were built from it. He lunged with his legs alone, claws aimed for her midsection. She ducked low and swept his knees. He collapsed again, chest heaving. She pounced, straddled his back, hooked one arm under his chin and the other around what remained of his functioning limb. A classic rear choke, but adapted for alien physiology. She tightened her grip. "You laughed at the beginning," she said into his ear slit. "Say something funny now." He gurgled, tried to claw at her, but his arms were too weak. She didn't wait for him to pass out. Instead, she drove her knee into his spine, twisted his arm until cartilage cracked, and let go. He slumped to the floor. The crowd didn't roar. They didn't understand what had happened. They watched her rise, blood on her face, calm in her stride, and felt something they didn't expect.
Fear.
Marla looked toward the judge's box. "Winner?" she asked. The drone hovered above the broken form of Voronike, then beeped. "Human victory confirmed." She didn't raise her arms.
Didn't celebrate.
She simply nodded once and walked toward the exit. In the control room, alien technicians studied slow-motion replays. She knows the Fravox anatomy. She exploited stress points no one outside their own species should understand. A Zentari analyst hissed, "That wasn't instinct. That was training." In the diplomatic suite, the Terran envoy leaned back, expression unreadable. "And she didn't even use weapons," he muttered. "She didn't need to," his aide replied. Above the arena, Voronike's name began to flicker from the display. The system struggled to categorize what had just happened. Marla passed a medic drone that hovered near the exit. It chirped in concern. "Wound detected on cheek. Do you require aid?" She wiped the blood with the back of her hand and kept walking. "Does he?" The drone hesitated, then buzzed off toward Voronike. She didn't look back. She'd said everything she needed to, without a word too many, without a flourish wasted. And somewhere, deep in the combat registration system, a queue formed. Other champions. Other species. All reviewing footage. All suddenly uncertain. And one name blinked at the top of the challenge board. Human, Voss M. The list beneath it grew slower than usual. The silence in the arena was heavier than the roar had ever been. Voronike lay unconscious, limbs sprawled in graceless angles, a legend reduced to twitching muscle and broken pride. Med drones swarmed his body, scanners blaring in panicked bursts. A stretcher platform descended, its lights a sterile white contrast against the arena's crimson-stained floor. Marla stood off to the side, expression unreadable. Her breathing had returned to a resting rhythm, heart steady. The shallow cut on her cheek had dried. She didn't watch the medics. She already knew how bad it was. Above, the commentators tried to make sense of it. "The human didn't just win," one began, voice tight with disbelief. "She dismantled him. She broke his arm, dislocated his shoulder, compromised 2 joints, and didn't use a single weapon. Not even claws. She's human. They are the weapons." In the diplomatic gallery, murmurs turned into urgent conversations. Alien envoys tapped data slates, whispering into comm devices. Every delegation had watched the match as a novelty, a side act, a chance to prove that the soft-skinned newcomers didn't belong. Now they were recalibrating threat assessments. Down in the bowels of the arena, Voronike was carted away on a stretcher too small for his pride. His mandibles twitched in a post-conscious reflex. His eyes didn't open. Marla walked back to the center of the ring. The referee drone hesitated. Combat concluded. "You may return to your quarters." She didn't move. "He's not the last, is he?" A pause. "Clarify." She scanned the audience tiers. "There are more of them. Watching. Judging." "Yes." "Good." She cracked her knuckles, quiet as falling stones. "Let them." In the control tower, a new name blinked onto the challenge roster, tentative and signed. An Urok Gladiator. 7-time execution champion. He watched a replay of Marla's armlock and paused at the moment of the break. His claw hovered over the confirm entry rune and didn't press it. Marla left the ring the same way she'd entered, alone, without escort or ceremony. In the hallway beyond the gates, a janitor bot skittered away from her like it had seen a predator. At the security checkpoint, a tall, pale-skinned Zentari officer tried to make eye contact. "You are permitted to return to Earth. Transport can be." "Not done yet," she said, walking past. In a private chamber above the arena, two beings stood at a reinforced viewport. One, the human envoy, calm and composed. The other, a Draxian intelligence director whose spines twitched with worry. "You said she was a reserve," the Draxian rasped. The human gave a slow nod. "She's Tier 2. She wasn't even our first pick." "What is Tier 1 then?" A smile, thin and quiet. "A problem you won't survive meeting." The Draxian blinked all four eyes and said nothing more. Later, in a debrief chamber under strict security shielding, Marla sat with her fists wrapped in gauze. A combat analyst, a fellow human, ex-Marine, watched the footage with her. "You held back." "Yeah. You could have killed him with the arm bar." "I know. Why didn't you?" She glanced at the monitor, watched Voron AK writhe in slow motion. "Because I wanted him to remember. If he wakes up, I want that memory to hurt more than the bone." The analyst nodded. "Command will like that. Controlled brutality." Marla stood, flexing her shoulder. It wasn't for command. No. It was for every diplomat they laughed at, every human they underestimated, every crew member they shoved around in docking bays. "We walk into their galaxy, and they think we're jokes.
Pets.
Weak." The analyst folded his arms. "And now they're wondering how many of us are like me." Outside, the news feeds spiraled into chaos. Headlines blinked across systems. "Human warrior defeats champion in unarmed match." Freyvok Council issues protests. Combat protocols under review after shocking victory. Back on Earth, people cheered. On Mars, they watched in silence, taking notes. And on a hidden station orbiting Neptune, Black Ops candidates reviewed the footage with surgical attention. Marla's name became something whispered in curiosity and caution, and in places no human would ever be welcomed, it became something else. A warning. Somewhere deep in the alien net, a clip of her final move looped endlessly, silent, slow, inevitable. A child of a far starworld watched it with wide eyes and turned to their parent. "I want to fight like her," the child said. The parent, a warrior of rank, said nothing, just stared. In her quarters, Marla finally allowed herself to sit. No celebrations. No medals. She wasn't here for that. She'd done her job, to deliver a message. She rolled her bruised wrist and stared at her reflection. "He pointed," she murmured, voice dry with irony. "So I broke it." And somewhere far away, a list of next year's champions began circulating. None of them were laughing.